First contact. Signal detection at the SETI facility began like any other day. Routine scans, data collection, and the usual hum of equipment. But at 3:47 a.m. on a cool October morning, everything changed. Dr. Alan Park stared at his monitor, blinking rapidly as he processed what he was seeing. "This can't be right," he whispered, running the analysis again. But it was right. The pattern was unmistakable, a perfectly structured message from deep space. Not random cosmic noise, but a deliberate communication carrying mathematical sequences too precise to be natural. Within hours, the facility buzzed with activity. Government officials arrived, followed by military personnel. The message was decoded within days, revealing a shocking truth. Humanity was not alone, and advanced civilizations wanted to talk. 3 months later, Alan found himself aboard a sleek aircraft heading to a secret location in Nevada. Beside him sat Olivia Grant, a skilled diplomat chosen for her calm demeanor and sharp mind. "Nervous?" Olivia asked, noticing Alan's white-knuckled grip on the armrest. "Terrified," he admitted. "We're about to meet actual aliens." Olivia nodded. "Just remember, we represent all of humanity today." The landing site appeared suddenly in the desert. A massive circular pad surrounded by temporary structures. Military vehicles formed a perimeter, their occupants watching the sky. The alien ship arrived without sound. One moment the sky was empty. The next a massive vessel hovered above them, its surface shifting with colors that seemed impossible. "It's beautiful," Alan whispered as a beam of light emerged from the ship's underside. 4 figures descended through the light. Their bodies were tall and muscular, with skin that resembled polished copper. They moved with surprising grace despite their bulky frames. The tallest alien stepped forward. "I am Ambassador Zrel of the Galactic Concord," it said in perfect English, the sound seeming to come from everywhere at once. "We welcome Earth to the greater community of civilized worlds." Alan and Olivia exchanged shocked glances before stepping forward to introduce themselves. Later, in a hastily prepared meeting room, the true nature of humanity's position became clear. "Your species is physically unfortunate," Zrel explained, examining Alan with multifaceted eyes. "The weakest we've encountered with space communication capabilities." "Weak how?" Olivia asked, maintaining her diplomatic composure. Another alien, introduced as Science Director Vreen, displayed a holographic comparison of human anatomy against other species. Humans fell short in nearly every category: muscle density, bone strength, sensory capabilities. "Yet your intelligence seems adequate," Vreen noted, "and your planet contains resources valuable to the Concord. What exactly are you proposing?" Alan asked. "Earth will be admitted as a protectorate member," Zrel stated. "You will receive technology, protection, and limited trade rights. In exchange, we seek certain mineral resources and scientific cooperation." A third alien, Security Commander Kraz, spoke for the first time. "Your species requires protection. The galaxy contains dangers you cannot imagine." The implications were clear. Humans were being offered junior status in a cosmic hierarchy based on physical capability. 3 weeks of tense negotiations followed. Earth leaders debated the terms via secure links while Alan and Olivia served as direct intermediaries. "They see us as children," Alan said during a private moment. "Weak children." Olivia nodded. "But children grow up. We'll prove our worth." The agreement was eventually signed. Earth became the newest, and physically weakest, member of the Galactic Concord. The aliens established an outpost in lunar orbit, and select humans began training for roles in the wider galactic community. No one could have predicted that humanity's perceived weakness would soon become the galaxy's greatest strength, or that Alan Park and Olivia Grant would find themselves at the center of a crisis that threatened all intelligent life. 6 months after Earth joined the Galactic Concord, Dr. Alan Park found himself stationed aboard the Concord research vessel Astral Seeker. The ship orbited a distant gas giant in a system the aliens called Nexus 7, known for its unusual electromagnetic properties. Ellen reviewed data from recent ship disappearances along the galaxy's outer rim. These weren't simple accidents. 23 vessels had vanished without distress signals in the past month alone. "You're still examining those reports?" Captain Kate Wilson asked, entering the lab. As one of the few other humans aboard, she often checked on Alan. "Something's not adding up," Alan said, gesturing to his screen. "Look at these patterns." Kate leaned closer. "What am I seeing?" "The disappearances aren't random. They follow a sequence based on the ship's energy outputs." Ellen highlighted a section of data. The higher the energy signature, the more likely they became targets. Kate frowned. "Have you shown this to Commander Drex?" "3 times. He says human pattern recognition is primitive and unreliable." This was a common problem. Despite joining the Concorde, humans were rarely taken seriously. Their physical limitations overshadowed their cognitive abilities in the eyes of most alien species. Later that day, Alan and Kate brought their findings to a meeting with senior officers. Commander Drex, a tall Vesperian with exoskeletal armor, barely glanced at their data. "We believe the attacks may be coordinated," Kate explained, "possibly by a species attracted to energy emissions." Science Officer Mila, a serpentine Tritonian, flicked her tongue dismissively. "That's impossible. No known species hunts that way." "What about unknown species?" Ellen pressed. "The disappearances started in unexplored regions." Commander Drex made a clicking sound with his mandibles, the Vesperian equivalent of a sigh. "Your species sees patterns where none exist. It's a survival mechanism from your primitive past." After the meeting, Alan and Kate returned to the lab frustrated but determined. "We need proof they can't ignore," Kate said. 3 days later, they got their chance. The Astral Seeker received a distress signal from a Concorde scout ship. When they arrived at the coordinates, they found the vessel drifting, its crew dead. Alan joined the investigation team. Inside the scout ship, something had drained all power systems and left strange residue on every surface. He collected samples and rushed back to analyze them. "These contain unknown organic compounds," he told Kate after hours of testing. "They're absorbing ambient energy even in the sample containers." A week later, another ship disappeared, this time just 2 systems away. Alan convinced Kate to take a small research vessel to investigate without officially informing Commander Drex. They arrived to find debris scattered across space. As they examined the wreckage, their sensors detected something moving toward them. "What is that?" Kate whispered as a dark mass appeared against the stars. The entity was massive and shapeless, seeming to absorb light rather than reflect it. Tendrils of darkness reached toward their ship. "Cut power. Now," Alan shouted. Kate immediately shut down all systems except life support. The creature hesitated, then moved away, apparently losing interest in their now low-energy vessel. "It feeds on energy," Alan whispered as they drifted, watching the entity disappear into space. "And I bet it's not alone." When they returned to the Astral Seeker with video evidence, even Commander Drex couldn't dismiss their findings. The Void Collective, Mila named the entities after reviewing the data, a theoretical species from ancient texts. "We thought they were myths." "They're very real," Kate said, "and they're hunting ships throughout this sector." Commander Drex sent their findings to Concorde Command, but the response was disappointing. "Continue observation. Avoid engagement. Human assessment requires verification by senior species." "They still don't believe us," Alan said bitterly. Kate placed a hand on his shoulder. "They will. Soon, they won't have a choice." 2 weeks after discovering the Void Collective, Alan and Kate found themselves on Outpost Zenith, a major Concorde research station orbiting a neutron star. The facility housed over 3,000 scientists and military personnel from 17 different species. Only 23 were human. Alan presented his findings to the station's senior council, but once again faced skepticism. These void entities may simply be unusual energy fluctuations, stated Director Voss, a massive Taurian with gleaming scales. Humans often mistake natural phenomena for intelligent behavior. Kate struggled to maintain her composure. We have video evidence. These things deliberately targeted ships with higher energy outputs. Coincidence, another council member muttered. As the debate continued, alarm sirens suddenly blared throughout the station. The main view screen activated, showing multiple dark shapes approaching from the direction of the neutron star. Void Collective, Alan whispered, feeling a chill despite the room's warm temperature. Within minutes, chaos erupted. The entities surrounded the station, their amorphous bodies pulsing as they began absorbing energy from the outer shield systems. Emergency protocols activated, but something unexpected happened. The non-human species began to freeze. Literally freeze, their bodies becoming rigid, their cognitive functions shutting down. The Taurians, Vesperians, Tritonians, all stopped responding, caught in biological paralysis. What's happening to them? Alan asked, watching Director Voss collapse into a statue-like state. Only the humans remained functional, though terrified. Dr. Lena Rivera, the station's human medical officer, rushed into the council chamber. It's a neurological response, she explained quickly. Their brains are shutting down from overwhelming fear, some kind of evolutionary protection mechanism. But we're still conscious, Kate noted. Human fear response is different, Lena explained. Our brains can still function while experiencing terror. It's why we can run from predators instead of freezing. Alan looked around at the incapacitated aliens. Our weakness just became our strength. With the station's leadership incapacitated, the humans took charge. Kate organized them into teams, focusing on critical systems maintenance and defense. We need to reduce the station's energy output, Alan told the group. It's what attracts them. Working frantically, the humans managed to shut down non-essential systems. The void entities continued to drain outer shields, but their advance slowed. Alan led a team to the observatory deck for a better view of the attack. What they saw amazed them. The entities moved with clear purpose, communicating through pulses of darkness. They're intelligent, he realized. This isn't random feeding, it's coordinated. When the entities breached the outer shields, something remarkable happened. The first creature to enter the station hesitated upon encountering humans. It seemed confused by their continued activity. Kate, armed with an emergency energy dampener, approached it cautiously. The entity reached a tendril toward her, but pulled back when she showed no fear response like the other species. They expect us to freeze, she said quietly. They don't know what to do with prey that fights back. Using this advantage, the humans deployed energy dampeners throughout the station. The void entities, confused by both the reduced energy and the active resistance, eventually retreated. 3 hours later, the non-human species began to recover from their paralysis. Director Voss found the humans maintaining station operations with remarkable efficiency. How did you remain functional? He demanded, his massive frame still trembling slightly. Ellen explained the difference in human fear response. A quirk of evolution, Lena added. Our ancestors survived by fighting or fleeing, not freezing. Director Voss studied the humans with newfound respect. Your species' weakness may have saved this station. Within days, news spread throughout the Concord. The physically weakest species had stood against the void when others could not. Earth received an urgent request. Send more humans to form special response teams. The galaxy's perspective on humanity was beginning to change. The Concord High Command established a new division, Human Response Teams. Within 2 months, 500 Earth volunteers arrived at various stations throughout Concord space. These squads faced skepticism from alien races who had long considered humans inferior, but after the incident at Outpost Zenith, no one could deny their unique value. Sergeant Jack Rivera led one such team aboard the Concord Defense Station Epsilon. A former Marine with combat experience in 3 Earth conflicts, Jack brought tactical thinking that many Concord military leaders lacked. His 10-person team trained constantly for encounters with the Void Collective. "They're not invincible," Jack told his team during a briefing. "They have patterns and behaviors we can exploit." Beside him stood Dr. Diane Howard, a quantum physicist who had developed theories about the entity's composition. "They exist partially outside our normal spacetime," she explained, pointing to holographic models. "That's why conventional weapons don't affect them. But they must materialize fully to feed on energy." Jack nodded. "That's our window. When they're feeding, they're vulnerable." The station commander, a towering Arcturian named Grell, observed these human sessions with growing interest. "Your species approaches threat assessment differently," he noted after one briefing. "We've spent our history as both predator and prey," Jack replied. "Makes us good at understanding both perspectives." Their theories were tested sooner than expected. A void attack descended on a nearby mining outpost, threatening its 1,000 inhabitants. As alien personnel fell into fearful paralysis, Jack's team deployed immediately. Their small craft approached the outpost cautiously, running on minimal power to avoid attention. Through the viewports, they saw the now familiar sight of dark entities swarming the station's exterior, absorbing energy from its systems. "Remember the plan," Jack said as they docked. "Pulse patterns to confuse them, energy traps to lure them, dampening fields to weaken them." Inside the outpost, Jack's team moved efficiently through corridors filled with paralyzed aliens. They set up modified energy emitters at strategic points, creating a network of attractive targets and sudden dampening fields. When the first void entity entered the section, it moved directly toward the highest energy signature. The trap activated, surrounding it with a rapidly fluctuating energy field that disrupted its feeding process. The entity writhed, its form becoming unstable. "It's working," called Mia Chen, Jack's second-in-command. Throughout the station, the team repeated this process, trapping and disrupting entities one by one. In the command center, Jack supervised the operation while Diane gathered crucial data on the entity's responses. "They're learning," Diane warned after an hour, "adapting to our trap patterns." Jack nodded. "Then we change the patterns. Keep them guessing." For 6 hours, the human team played this deadly game of cat and mouse with creatures that had terrorized the galaxy's most powerful species. Slowly, their tactics drove the entities back, forcing them to retreat from the outpost. When the last void entity withdrew, the station's alien personnel began to recover. The Arcturian security chief found Jack's team exhausted but triumphant in the command center. "Impossible," the Arcturian whispered, reviewing footage of humans actively fighting creatures that had paralyzed his own kind. Jack shrugged. "Not impossible, just required a different approach." News of this first successful defense against the Void spread quickly through Concord communications. Human response teams were suddenly in high demand across the galaxy. Species that had once looked down on humans now requested their protection. In an emergency session of the Concord High Council, the human representative was moved from the back of the chamber to a position of prominence. The physically weakest species had achieved what the strongest could not. "Perhaps we have misjudged what constitutes strength," admitted the Concord Supreme Leader, a statement unprecedented in the organization's 5,000-year history. On Earth, recruitment centers opened to find more volunteers. Humanity had found its place in the galaxy, not as conquered or conqueror, but as protectors against a threat only they could face. The situation escalated dramatically 3 months after the successful defense of the mining outpost. Alan Park was analyzing data from recent Void encounters when alarm signals blared across all Concord communication channels. "Multiple simultaneous attacks," Kate Wilson announced, rushing into the lab. "Not just isolated incidents. They're hitting major systems across the entire galactic rim." Reports flooded in from dozens of worlds and stations. Unlike previous encounters, these attacks showed clear coordination. The Void Collective moved with purpose, targeting critical infrastructure and military installations. "They're learning," Allen said grimly, "adapting to our defenses." The Concord High Command called an emergency session, but the meeting quickly dissolved into chaos when 3 void entities appeared directly inside the command center. Senior officials from 7 species immediately fell into paralytic states, leaving only the human representatives and a few resilient alien species conscious. Admiral Peter Hayes, Earth's military liaison to the Concord, took command by default. Evacuation Protocol Alpha. Get all functional personnel to emergency ships. Within hours, the pattern became clear. The Void Collective had launched a full-scale invasion. Major Concord military vessels found themselves incapacitated, their crews frozen in terror as the entities boarded them. Only ships with human crew members remained operational. "They're targeting our command structure," Admiral Hayes said during an emergency broadcast. "This isn't random feeding anymore. It's strategic warfare." Earth suddenly became the focal point of galactic defense, as one of the few planets with beings resistant to the Void's fear effect. Humanity's homeworld transformed into the command center for resistance operations. In a converted conference room at NASA headquarters, Dr. Diane Howard presented her findings to an audience of human military leaders and the few alien representatives still functional. "The Void entities aren't just energy parasites," she explained, displaying complex molecular models. "They're a collective consciousness that exists partly in our dimension and partly in another. When they feed on energy, they're most vulnerable because they're fully materialized in our space." "Have you found a way to harm them?" asked General Frank Nelson. Diane nodded cautiously. "Their molecular structure destabilizes when exposed to specific frequencies of quantum resonance. We've developed a disruptor that could theoretically break their cohesion." "Theoretically?" Admiral Hayes questioned. "We've tested it on small samples collected from previous encounters," Diane explained. "But deploying it against the entire collective would require placing disruptor devices at the heart of their territory." The room fell silent as the implications became clear. Such a mission would be essentially a suicide run into the most dangerous region of space now controlled by the Void. "I'll go," Alan Park said, standing up from his seat at the back of the room. "I studied them longer than anyone." "You're not going alone," Kate Wilson added immediately. Within days, a desperate plan formed. A small fleet of human-crewed ships would attempt to penetrate deep into Void territory, while the remaining Concord forces mounted diversionary attacks. The mission would carry Diane's disruptor devices to the center of Void activity. As preparations advanced, something remarkable happened. Alien species that had once dismissed humans as weak began to show a different kind of respect. The Arcturian ambassador formally requested that Earth take temporary command of all remaining Concord military forces. "Your species possesses strength we do not," the ambassador stated. "Not physical power, but something perhaps more valuable." The United Nations quickly established an emergency command structure. Ships from across Earth were commandeered and retrofitted with Concord technology. Volunteers flooded recruitment centers, despite knowing the danger they faced. 2 weeks after the coordinated attacks began, Earth launched its counter-offensive. 50 ships carrying predominantly human crews departed for the front lines, while a smaller stealth team prepared for the crucial mission into the heart of Void territory. As his ship prepared to depart, Alan looked back at the blue-green planet below. "Who would have thought," Kate said beside him, "that the galaxy's weakest species would become its last hope?" Commander Sam Murphy studied the tactical display showing the Void Collective's territory. The swirling mass of darkness had consumed nearly a quarter of the galaxy's outer rim. His mission, officially named Operation Endurance, was considered by most to be impossible. "We have the coordinates for their central nexus," Sam told his crew of 12 volunteers. "Dr. Howard believes that's where their collective consciousness is most concentrated and most vulnerable." The crew gathered in the briefing room of their ship, the Defiance. Selected for their exceptional psychological profiles, each member had demonstrated remarkable calm under extreme pressure. Among them was Dr. Nicole Foster, who had helped develop the quantum disruptor device. The disruptor needs to be placed here. Nickel pointed to a pulsing spot on the map. Once activated, it will create a cascading resonance that should disrupt their entire network. Should? Asked Lieutenant Greg Barnes, weapons specialist. Nickel nodded grimly. We've never tested it at this scale, but our simulations show a 72% chance of success. Sam continued the briefing. We'll have 3 ships for this mission. Defiance will carry the primary disruptor. Sentinel and Voyager will provide diversion and backup. The plan relied on stealth. Their ships had been modified with energy-dampening technology to minimize detection. They would approach the Void territory during a massive coordinated attack by the human-led Concord fleet, hopefully slipping through while the collective was distracted. As the briefing concluded, Sam noticed the quiet determination on each face. No one had been ordered on this mission. All were volunteers who understood the slim chances of return. 3 days later, Operation Endurance launched. The 3 ships departed from the forward base as the main fleet engaged Void entities at multiple points along the rim. The diversionary battle was visible as flashes of light against the darkness of space. Energy signatures minimal, reported Lieutenant Lisa Wright at the sensor station. We're practically ghosts. The 3 ships slipped past the outer defenses of Void territory. Inside this region, space itself seemed different. Darker, with strange currents that pulled at their vessels. It's like they're changing the fabric of reality, Nickel observed, studying her instruments. 8 hours into the mission, they detected a Void patrol. The entities moved with purpose, scanning the area systematically. They're evolving faster than we expected, Sam said quietly, developing actual patrol patterns. The ships powered down further, drifting silently as the patrol passed. For tense minutes, the crew hardly breathed. When the entities finally moved away, collective sighs of relief filled the bridge. As they approached the central nexus, disaster struck. The Sentinel was detected and immediately swarmed by Void entities. The crew's screams came through briefly on the comm system before falling silent. Maintain course, Sam ordered, his voice steady despite the loss. Their sacrifice gives us our window. The Voyager moved to provide additional cover, drawing attention away from the Defiance. Sam watched on sensors as it too was overwhelmed, but not before creating the opening they needed. The Defiance pushed forward into the heart of Void territory. Around them, space became increasingly distorted. Instruments fluctuated wildly as they approached the central nexus. There it is, Nickel whispered. The view screen showed a massive, pulsing concentration of darkness. Not simply black, but an absence of everything. Light, matter, perhaps even time itself. Prepare the disruptor, Sam ordered. As Nicole calibrated the device, something unexpected happened. A new ship appeared on their sensors, approaching from an unmarked region of space. It was unlike any Concorde design. We're being hailed, Lisa reported in surprise. The screen activated to show a crystalline being, its form shimmering with internal light. We are the luminary, it communicated directly into their minds. We have watched this conflict from afar. Your courage has convinced us to break our neutrality. The luminary vessel moved alongside the Defiance, creating an energy shield around both ships. We will ensure your device reaches its target, the crystalline being promised. The galaxy's fate rests on your species' unique strength, not of body, but of will. With this unexpected alliance, the final approach began. Sam gripped his command chair tightly, knowing the next few minutes would determine the fate of countless worlds. Disruptor armed, Nickel reported. Ready on your command. Sam took a deep breath. Let's finish this. The Defiance approached the pulsing heart of the Void Collective, protected by the shimmering shield of the luminary vessel. Inside the ship, Commander Sam Murphy's crew worked with focused intensity, each person knowing their role in humanity's most critical mission. Disruptor deployment in 30 seconds, Nickel announced, her fingers dancing across the control panel. Outside the viewports, space itself seemed to bend and warp. The central nexus of the Void Collective appeared as a massive dark vortex, pulling all light into its depths. Tendrils of darkness reached toward the ships, testing the luminary shield. The shield won't hold much longer, the crystalline being communicated. We must act now. Sam nodded. Launch sequence initiated. The disruptor device ejected from the Defiance, a small metallic sphere, trailing a faint blue glow as it moved toward the center of the vortex. Immediately, the void entities reacted, swarming toward the unfamiliar object. They sensed the threat, Nickel said, monitoring the readings. Activation in 10 seconds. The luminary vessel positioned itself between the Defiance and the approaching entities, absorbing the first wave of attacks. Its crystalline structure began to crack under the assault. Your species must survive, the luminary being transmitted as its ship started to break apart. The galaxy needs what you possess. The disruptor reached the center of the nexus and activated. For a moment, nothing seemed to happen. Then a pulse of blue-white energy expanded outward from the device, rippling through the darkness like waves through water. Where it touched the void entities, they shuddered and destabilized. It's working. Nickel shouted as her instruments registered the cascade effect. The quantum resonance spread exponentially, each affected entity transmitting the disruptive frequency to others connected through their collective consciousness. The massive vortex began to collapse upon itself. We need to get out now, Sam ordered. Maximum power to engines. The Defiance turned and accelerated away from the imploding nexus, its systems training under the emergency boost. Behind them, the luminary vessel disintegrated completely, sacrificing itself to give them those precious extra seconds. Throughout Concord space, the effect was immediate and dramatic. Void entities everywhere suddenly lost cohesion, their forms dissolving into harmless particles. Ships and stations reported the retreat of the darkness, replaced by normal space once again. The Defiance, badly damaged but still functional, limped back to Concord territory. Only 7 of the original 12 crew members survived the mission. When they emerged from their ship at Earth's orbital station, they were greeted by a crowd of humans and aliens alike. Admiral Hayes stepped forward. The Void Collective has been neutralized. What you accomplished will be remembered for generations across thousands of worlds. In the weeks that followed, the galaxy began to rebuild. The Concord underwent a fundamental transformation, with Earth and humanity taking a central role in its new structure. The council chambers were redesigned so that representatives sat in a circle, symbolizing the equality of all member species. Dr. Alan Park, who had provided crucial research for the mission, addressed the first meeting of this new galactic council. The Void Crisis taught us something profound, he said, looking around at the diverse alien forms. Strength comes in many forms. Physical power is just one kind. Resilience, adaptability, and courage are equally important. Olivia Grant, now serving as Earth's primary ambassador, added, "Our species was once dismissed as the weakest in the galaxy, but weakness in one area often drives evolution of strength in another." The Arcturian supreme leader, standing nearly twice the height of any human, bowed in a gesture of profound respect. The Concord has existed for 5,000 years, yet we fail to understand this simple truth. Different evolutionary paths create different kinds of strength, all valuable in their own way. A memorial was constructed in orbit around Earth, a monument that contained the names of all who had fallen in the conflict. At its center stood a simple inscription in multiple languages, in remembrance of those who proved that true strength comes in many forms. The galaxy entered a new era of cooperation. Human response teams worked alongside other species, sharing their unique abilities while learning from others. Scientific exchange flourished as barriers between cultures fell away. And in the deepest reaches of space, the luminary watched with approval as the youngest species in the galaxy helped forge a new understanding of what it truly meant to be strong.